Welcome in, everybody, to Birds 365, July 22nd. Johnny Mac, we are 1 day away from the Eagles reporting to camp, 2 days away until they officially grace the field for the first time. How you doing on this Monday, Johnny Mac? How was your weekend?
Yeah, worried about training camp. So, stress level up, but that's the way it should be this time of year.
Yeah, it's starting to pick up for sure. Feeling it on my end as well. Excited though. Excited to have the Eagles season back. Excited to, get some more stuff to talk about. Excited to see, how some of the camp storylines progress. And it's a great time of the year, especially for all of our viewers in the chat who are diehard Eagles fans. A lot of stuff going on in the world, John McMullen, but we will keep it on the Eagles. We will give our Eagles fans their fix of the Philadelphia Eagles. I want to welcome everybody in this morning. Devontae Madness, Paul, Philly Birds, Miguel, James Carver, any other Jameses we have in here. We normally have a few Jameses in here. Suplex City, Jeff Martin, Auto Fanatic. Thank you guys all for being here this morning, Crawley. Make sure you guys drop a like on the show. Camp is here, everybody. We are ready to get into it. No doubt about it. Johnny Mac, let's start real quick with the I don't want to go there, but we're going to go there. A little drama from Diana Rossini. She starts off talking about, Sirianni's role in the collapse last year. Tell us your take on what Diana had to say about Nick Sirianni and how.
Oh boy, we need a 4-hour show. But my first thing, and by the way, Diana's great. So this is not a shot at Diana, but it's a shot at the sort of dynamic of the national people. One of the most interesting things about it was that Nick Sirianni had total control of the offense, which he's literally told people dozens of times.
He's been saying that for years.
But now, for whatever reason, fans now start to grab, oh, Nick was in charge and not Brian Johnson. Nick has always been in charge. He doesn't run from it. He said consistently, if you listen to the show, it's his offense. So that's a pet peeve, number one. That's nothing to do with Diana. But the biggest part about Howie Roseman, it's wild, the reputation. I think Howie likes it, but it's wild, the reputation Howie has as far as being in people's heads. The allegation was that he hired Kellen Moore, and I don't know if that's me, Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio. First of all, everybody's on what the Fangio stuff is white noise. Everybody was on board with Fangio. They wanted him to be the defensive coordinator after Jonathan Gannon left. The timing didn't work out. People should know that by now. But so it really boils down to Kellen Moore. He didn't hire Kellen Moore. I don't know how to say this more plainly. Now, there's context to it in the fact that there's collaboration. Nick didn't want to give up his offense. Nobody believes that. I don't believe that. But he was, I've written about it numerous times. He's politically savvy enough to read the room. He knows if he Doug Peterson things and walked in and said, nope, I'm keeping Brian Johnson. I'm keeping my offense. He's probably out the door. At that point, you're forcing Jeffrey Lurie's hands. So, no, Nick didn't want to give up his offense. Yes, Nick realized he had to give up his offense, and then it's his decision. And for all the people that assume Howie Roseman is hiring coaches and doing this and doing that, there's so much contradiction here. It's like, what? Then why wasn't Nolan Smith playing last year? He's out there begging to play the younger players, but he didn't. Because that was up to the coaching staff. If he's this all-powerful GM, omnipresent, who does everything, why? Why are these contradictions? Nick Sirianni did not even report to Howie Roseman. He reported directly to Jeffrey Lurie. So this stuff is partially just Howie's reputation and the fact that people think he's this, and then the aspect of in general he's on equal footing with Nick, but there's no question that he's closer to Jeffrey Lurie. So if you're being real, he's got more power because he's Jeffrey Lurie's most trusted advisor. So I'm not trying to downplay that at all. But Jeffrey specifically set it up this way for a reason. And it's Howie's job to get the roster together, the 90-man roster, cut it down to 53, and hand that roster over to Nick Sirianni. Things change all the time in the NFL. They can change overnight. We'll get a better indication as reporters as we get down there this week if anything has changed dramatically from that aspect of it. But I wrote about this on SI, and everybody can go see it. And I ran it by multiple people at the Eagles and said, read this and you're not, and I don't like doing that. And it's not, I'm not looking for approval. Any journalist that's looking at never, ever, ever do that. I said, read this and tell me if you dispute any of it. Dispute any of it. I don't care how little it is. And nobody disputed anything. So, yeah, but people are going to believe what they want to believe.
People love a story, Johnny Mac. That's how it goes. I will take your word for it to listen to John McMullen, everybody. He is in the know. He knows what the hell he's talking about when it comes to this team. Anyway, John, let's get into a little bit of camp. We have Jeff Kerr coming up in 10 minutes. I don't want to go too deep on the Diana, Nick, Howie wormhole. The only problem from it I could see is if Howie was the guy who hired Kellen Moore. Maybe there's some power struggles between Nick and Kellen during the season that could be something to watch out for. But if it's not how it went down, then it's just a story, as you mentioned. Let's get into camp, though. Training camp begins this week, Johnny Mac. I want to give our viewers the schedule real quick. Wednesday, so they report tomorrow. That's correct, right? The team reports tomorrow. They're not on field or anything, but they're reporting into the building tomorrow, right?
Yeah. Physicals, maybe some conditioning. They might be on the field doing some conditioning, but very little. They're not practicing.
So Wednesday, So Wednesday they start their practicing. Practice at 10 a.m. Wednesday. Practice at 10 a.m. on Thursday. Friday they have a walkthrough, and then Saturday practice at 10 a.m. So three practices at 10 a.m. Friday they have a little break. They have the walkthrough. So that means Wednesday and Thursday will probably have a different setup, different schedule on Birds 365, just so everybody's aware of that. We might push the show to after John returns from NovaCare. We might do it that way. We might do an hour in the morning, hour at night. We will figure exactly that out. John and I will coordinate on that one. And I'll let you guys know the definite on that tomorrow. So just keep in mind Wednesday, Thursday might not be an 8 to 10 a.m. show due to the Eagles practicing. But John, what are you looking for as you're heading down there, man? It's actually here now. It's no longer like, oh, what are you thinking about for a couple of weeks from now? You're going down there Wednesday. A lot to look at. D-line, O-line, some position battles, wide receiver 3, all the stuff we've talked about all summer long. Where's Johnny Mac's mind as he enters training camp in 2 days?
Yeah, I mean, there's pretty clear competitions. Not a lot of them because this is a solid team that doesn't have a ton of problems when compared to most of their peers. But wide receiver 3 is certainly an interesting battle. Right guard, they're going to give Tyler Steen, I think, every chance to win that job, but is he going to win it? Defensively, the cornerback situation opposite Darius Slay is very interesting to people. The more I think about that, the more I think it's got to be Quinyon Mitchell unless he completely flops in the summer, which I don't think he will, number one. And number two, I don't think anybody should be hoping for that. So for the Isaiah Rodgers people, even the Kaylee Ringo people who I firmly count myself in that camp, I wouldn't necessarily root head over heels for your favorite because they want Quinyon. He's the guy with the biggest ceiling. He's the guy with the biggest upside. So I think, speaking of Howie and his power, that's certainly what he would want. And we'll see how that shakes out. But Vic's going to do what Vic wants to do, which is something also Diana said, by the way. And that part is 100% correct. Which there could be some loggerheads there, down the road because Coaches generally, not always, but generally are more comfortable with veteran players. It's just the way it is because
Yeah, absolutely.
veterans tend to make fewer mistakes and it's tough to live through the mistakes and you got to be very disciplined to do it. So, and sometimes you got to take your medicine and get those startup costs out of the way, which we talk about all the time. So that's big. Linebackers, obviously, I think the biggest thing to watch um, on the defense, not only because of the competition, but because we don't even know where guys are playing.
Yeah.
You know, Devin could be the middle linebacker. A lot of people I respect assume he's going to be the middle linebacker. I don't think that's a good sign for the Philadelphia Eagles if that happens. Um, Not the most instinctive player in the world, not a lot of gap discipline. Um, I think he'd be better suited on the weak side. Can Jacoby hold up at a middle linebacker? He's undersized. We know the injury history. Um, that's a big question. Zach Bond, I think people have penciled him in a little bit, and I think he might turn into a hybrid player. I still wouldn't cross him off the edge as well. Um, and then the younger guys, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., Ben Van Sumeren, how quickly can they get up to speed? So linebacker as a whole going to be very interesting. Not only who wins the jobs, but where they're playing.
Yeah.
And I think people are putting weight. If you listen to Bobby King, the linebackers coach, even Christian Parker's got nothing to do with the linebackers, but he was talking, about his group. And spring is the spring. Bobby's the one who said pajamas. Christian said, well, let's wait to see if you get the pads on. There's a long way to go. So to make these grand summations about spring work with no pads on, especially at a physical position, I think it's a mistake. Maybe it's a little bit more meaningful at wide receiver, corner, the coverage aspect of it from the linebackers, but certainly not run support. So linebacker to me is the most interesting thing of all for the
Yeah.
Eagles.
Yeah. And the thing that has made it more interesting for me is just what is Devin White going to be? I mean, look, I'm not as excited about him as a lot of Eagle fans are, but there's a lot of people, and we've even had people on this show, we've had people I respect on this show who have said, Devin White's got a high upside. Devin White has a lot of potential. Devin White, if he can, find what he had when he came into the league, he's going to be a big upgrade for the Eagles. And then there's the other hand who's like, he's sucked for 4 years straight. He's probably not going to be that great. So I'm very interested to see, how Devin White looks in this offense. And Nakobe Dean, I don't know. I don't know about Nakobe Dean. I don't know I don't know what he's going to look like, or he's really only played what, John, 4 or 5 games in his 3 years now in the NFL. I mean, it hasn't been much.
He played 5 games last year. He played every game his rookie year, but he didn't play. He
didn't play.
Played a
like
lot
40
on
snaps,
special.
right?
Yeah, he played a lot on special teams. Now he's a core special teamer, and he stayed healthy throughout it. But on the defense, he played very little because T.J. Edwards and Kaiser White stayed healthy. The team was successful, so there was no reason to go off them. So I don't blame the Eagles because they were making a run to the Super Bowl. That's just what I was talking about with coaches and veteran players versus younger players.
Right.
Well, they were the best team in football for a large portion of that year. Why are you going to take players who helped get you there out of the lineup? Doesn't make a lot of sense. So there's a lot of give and take when it comes to that. But it was clear back in February when Howie was talking at the combine, he wished Nolan Smith got a little bit more time last year to see what he had. And then Nick came up 10 minutes later and said, hey, I'm trying to win games.
Yeah.
And it is typical. And even more so this year. Nick's got to win games this year. By the way, our buddy Marcus Hayes, I should have mentioned that, came out with a column. That was, I love Marcus, but the contradictions, and Marcus saying Jeffrey Lurie likes Nick Sirianni, wasn't going to fire Nick Sirianni, that type of thing. and then says loves his ability as an administrator. And then everybody defaults to, well, yeah, Howie hired the coordinators. Well, what the hell is Nick administrating then? I mean,
yeah, you gotta try and get Marcus on. I didn't see that column. It's behind the paywall for me. I'm not on the Inquirer yet, but yeah, we got to try and get Marcus.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get Marcus on. We have the
last time we had Marcus on, he had a firecracker too, and he was talking about Howie Roseman, and he kind of took the contrarian take to the city of, Howie Roseman has some stuff to answer for, which was interesting at the time, and
well, he's got a lot of stuff to answer for now because evidently he's in control of the world. I'm surprised. I don't know. Howie might have been the one pulling the strings, getting Joe Biden out of the election. I mean, the way people have built it up in their mind. I mean, he's the all-powerful wizard behind the curtain. Yeah. Anyway, if you're a good administrator, well, then you're administrating, right? I don't know. Would make sense to me.
Training camp, everybody, just one day away, everybody, from the Philadelphia Eagles reporting to camp tomorrow, and then they'll start practice on Wednesday, Thursday. So Wednesday, Thursday, 10 a.m. practice for the Birds. Friday, they have a walkthrough, and then Saturday, back out for 10 a.m. On the practice. So it'll be good to see the Eagles getting out there. We'll have some video. I don't know however many minutes John will have available to take video, but we'll get as much of it as we can. We'll post it up on the channel. Make sure everybody stays tuned all week long. All the rest of the offseason, guys, we're going to be leading you right up into the season with the most in-depth coverage you will find on YouTube every single day with content. Let's get to our first commercial break. Jeff Kerr is back from vacation, baby. Jeff doesn't take many vacations, Johnny Mac. And last week, he was not with us due to a vacation. So we will get Jeff Kerr up back here on Birds 365 to preview Eagles training camp week next on Birds 365.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.